Jason Blum and M. Night Shyamalan. Seeing those two names on the same poster filled me with more dread than any horror film I've seen. I mean, found footage has exploded into the overcrowded genre it is today thanks in large part to Blum's empire. And in the case of Shyamalan, the guy hasn't really made a good film since Unbreakable. The combination of these minds does not bode particularly well. I came into this expecting pain, and while this film was better than I expected, it's not without its fair share of problems. Despite being only an hour and a half long, the film takes a while to really get going, as it takes its time to establish its characters and overall framing device of being a documentary shot by the elder sister. What doesn't help is the fact that the writing can get a little grating, as there are quite a few times where the dialogue is more or less trying to spell out the themes of the story in a very repetitive manner, might I add, or it's simply just trying to show off by having lines that probably looked really good, read really well on the page, but when you actually hear it spoken aloud by a human, doesn't really come across all that well. This is especially applicable during moments where they try to delve into some of the more tragic aspects of our main characters, because you can tell that these lines of dialogue are supposed to be kind of what draws these emotions out of these characters, but they don't sound like something people would actually say where they're specifically trying to get at someone, specifically trying to get a rise out of them. It just felt more like, once again, stating the obvious themes of the movie, stating the obvious emotions of the movie, and basically just spelling things out for the audience. Now, to the film's credit, there are some times where the characters, specifically our protagonists, feel like real kids that have come face to face with a very eerie situation. Speaking of which, that's another thing the film does really well, as it keeps its jump scares to a relative minimum, choosing to instead work towards creating an eerie atmosphere that seems normal at first, but then just leaves you weirded out as you notice something is off. Kind of like Twin Peaks, that's the best example I can give, where things look normal on the surface, but then as you notice that something just seems a little out of place, that's what weirds you out. That's kind of the main source of not so much terror, but just kind of that's kind of what weirds you out as you're watching this film. It's not so much any major scares, at least not until the final moments of the film, but rather just the sense that something is completely off about everything that is going on. That said, I think the biggest problem is that there are times where it feels like Shyamalan forgot he was making a found footage film, as much of the film is written and blocked like a normal drama, leading to a few moments where the story that's being told and the format of the film were at odds with one another. Since this is a Shyamalan film, you can expect to see his trademark plot twist. However, this time around, it's one of his more clever plot twists. I can also applaud the fact that he didn't try to make the film into a supernatural horror film like the advertising would have you believe. The story, and the twist in particular, are far more grounded in reality and are actually pretty creative. That said, like your typical Shyamalan film, once you know the twist, you can't really enjoy the film a second time, as a great deal of its strength comes from the mystery that it's building over the course of the entire film. Overall, it's a decent film that shows Shyamalan going back to his roots, however, it sports the same tropes and trappings that he's since become notorious for. As a found footage film, it's not the worst that I've seen, but some of the aspects of the story just don't really work well for this genre. As such, I recommend renting this film as opposed to seeing it in theaters. I mean, it's decent, but not worth paying a full ticket price to see, and you're not really losing anything by not seeing it in the theater. All of that said, The Visit gets a 3 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.